Greetings folks, Timothy here. I don't know if these videos need so much of an introduction. Oh, actually, if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button 1,000 times. You've just discovered the world's greatest YouTube channel. Thanks for being here. We talk about the nature of the times here. Wonderful, wonderful, fun year of 2020. Okay, so we are within the official Mars retrograde pinch, ongoing from September to October of this year. Mars station retrograde, 28 degrees Aries, within 3 degrees of an exact square to Saturn and about 5 degrees of an exact square to Pluto this last week. So now we have Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto stationing direct mid-September, first weeks of October. And this square between Mars retrograde, Saturn, and Pluto is tightening. Mars retrograde will exactly square Saturn at the end of this month, September 29th. This is the same exact day Saturn stations direct. And then Mars retrograde squares Pluto October 9th. So these exact squares between Mars retrograde, Saturn, and Pluto are occurring while Saturn and Pluto are stationing direct. This is an incredibly powerful time, as we will be experiencing and witnessing out there in the world by and large. Okay, so this is the incredibly tense creative friction, which we've been mentioning in these videos the last several weeks. This is also a period where there can be this instinctual reactivity. We're dealing with challenges, obstacles. This isn't a punishment, this is a strength development time. Personally, I've had kind of a steady frustration, kind of like a light boil going on these days. Maybe nothing unusual for Sir Timothy here. So this is a rite of passage to increase maturity. Again, this is strength development, as we will be discussing. And it's not necessarily a straightforward direction where things are going right now. As we've been saying, Mars retrograde invites this recoursing, redirection. We're going to very much continue to emphasize the need for flexibility, the need for patience. We cannot be forceful. We cannot expect ourselves to do things the way we plan, the way that we have done things in the past. This is a time of revision, okay? So Mars retrograde really tunes us to our physical bodies. We'll be talking about this emphasis on health. It's also our energy, our willpower, and our desires. So this is where there can be some shifting, like, hey, we talked about this, we said we wanted this, do we really want this? I'm doing this, is this really what I want to do? Etc., etc. Okay, so this is a time of rerouting. Again, no forcing any square pegs through a round hole. Okay, we are still in Virgo season. Virgo is constant revisionism, constant refining, polishing, purifying. It's never finished. Virgo is on the mutable cross. It's a constant, ongoing change. So we do need to be extra aware these weeks. I do sound like a little bit of a broken record. This is a period of time. You know, it is extending weeks into months here where we do need to be a little bit more careful, considerate, and adjusting. In that same vein, Virgo, we can get really clear, really centered, really solid, and really on point. You know, Virgo wakes us up to what needs to be removed, or what areas need to be focused on, what's weak, what's broken, what's not working, to bring healing awareness, care, and attention to those areas. So this is a time where we can really be clearing out distraction, interferences, impurities, bad habits, unwanted aspects of who we are or our life that we've accumulated because of expectation, obligation, what's been outgrown now, what is no longer needed. There is this, really letting go, so that way new things can be brought in, but in a Virgo type of way. It's not necessarily comfortable. It's like when we go to the hospital and we're laid out on an operation table, and in such times we don't put all of the world's pressures on ourselves, right? We have to be relaxed. We have to take it all with a grain of salt. And we have to remember that this is life. This is what it's like to be a human, to have a body. It's not necessarily personal. that we did, the wrong prayer at the wrong time, or whatever, kind of new age paranoia can come up when we're dealing with real life in the real world, the way we certainly are in this year of 2020. Okay. So we've got this new moon in Virgo coming up early morning, the 17th. This is at 25 degrees Virgo. Very powerful new moon. Heralding fall time here in the northern hemisphere. Okay, this is spring cleaning, southern hemisphere. And this is a preparation for winter. Northern hemisphere Virgo time really brings in the fall season. This is back to school time when we were younger, or if you're a teacher, there's this we get our pencils all sharpened and lined up in the corner of our desk, and we get our schedule and our planner all together because we're getting ready for the curriculum. We're getting ready for winter. We're getting ready for work, to roll up our sleeves here, to make it work as smooth, as clear, and to be on point. We can use this energy to get excited, to get all cleared out, to get strong, to get healthy. Okay, so that's the opportunity that we're sowing just now as I'm speaking to you and publishing this video under this new moon in Virgo. Very active new moon, heralding a very potent forthcoming lunar cycle. This new moon is square to the moon's nodes, trine Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, opposite Neptune, quincunx Mars retrograde, sesquiquadrate Uranus, semi-square to Venus. This new moon is aspecting 7 out of the 10 main planets plus the moon's nodes. So this indicates that there is, again, a lot happening in this forthcoming lunar cycle. This is when we're really getting woken up to what needs to change, what needs to heal. This is playing out, again, that quincunx to Mars can really play out on a physical level. We're getting our health, our body, our energy, our routine, our schedule, our diet, all cleared up. So we can have this spaciousness, this focus, this clarity. The sesquiquadrate to Uranus, the semi-square to Venus. It's this experiment in between in terms of what we need to be free, the open road needed to be our own Mars, independent, individual, freak of nature in a certain respect. Every single person is a unique individual. So how do we fit into the greater whole? How are we sharing our uniqueness with others? Is where there can be this turning point. And this is, again, a period where we can anticipate turning points, turning of directions, where we're directing our energy, where we're spending our time, needs revision. Okay? So, again, Virgo wakes us up to where improvement's needed. Virgo is like the alert system of our body. This can sometimes be crisis. Crisis wakes us up to where the healing needs to go. It brings a hyper-awareness to detail. Virgo is a hyper-awareness of all the parts, down to a microscopic biological level. Virgo has to do with energy systems. So, for our body, for example, our body is an energy system. We've got our blood, our brains, our teeth, our hair follicles, and it all is connected to the whole. Everything matters. Everything has its part. Everything is integral. So that's the delicacy, that's the hyper-focus, the need for hyper-focus during a highly Virgo season as we're paying attention to these details, how all of the little parts work together. That way we can bring the adjustment, the improvement needed to allow for a more holistic integration of the parts to improve the well-being of the whole. Okay. Every part in relation to every other part. So, if you've owned a home, for example, you certainly know what it's like to be constantly fixing something. Well, so it is having a body, having a human incarnation. This is life itself. Virgo is the zodiac sign, the most to do with our role as human beings. Now, the problem in times like these, which those of you who are familiar with my videos, you know how I address dynamics in the religious, spiritual, New Age communities. This isn't just because I like to pick fights. I see this as a very important aspect of our collective evolution at this particular time. I mean, we are really in the midst of these beliefs and philosophies that are extremely useless and outdated. So the problem with some of these religious New Age beliefs, this department is that Virgo gets turned into shame and inadequacy. The, perfect example of this is the story of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and the Bible, where because Adam and Eve, as it turns out, they're human. They have curiosity. They try the fruit. And now they're made naked, and sexual nature is forbidden, and there's the sense of impurity. I can't be my raw, natural self. So the raw, natural self has been made to be wrong, impure. Us living a natural human life, we've been guilted into being ashamed and inadequate for living what may be a seemingly fundamental, imperfect experience sometimes. It's not a Walt Disney fantasy. As much as we may have served that ideal earlier in our life, So the problem is when we have an experience of imperfection or challenge, or something isn't totally perfect or ideal in life, and then we blame ourselves. It's because I'm doing it wrong. While as, whatever guru, whatever channeled being, Abraham Hicks or whatever on the guru throne regurgitates, just think these magic thoughts and your life will be fine. Just click your heels together so many times and of course your life will come together perfectly. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the New Age movement is mostly a capitalistic enterprise. We wish it were that easy, so we are essentially manipulated by our own naive and wishful thinking and by the book from Mick Smiley or whatever, when really it's the often narcissistically rich and entitled that believe they've reached some higher goal or heaven, and therefore have something to teach the rest of us struggling cretins. And because we look at Mick Smiley on the book, we say, oh my gosh, if only I could live as happily and as content as him. For example, here in the astrology world, some rich and entitled person gains an interest in astrology, immediately starts their massive expensive hub or school, collecting all the big cheesy pop astrologers in one place as if that is some service to humanity, instead of what it actually does, lower the standard of astrology to shit. Same with the notion of perfection, as sold by religious or New Age philosophies, causing more harm than help. We are not here to live perfect, convenient lives. Guess what, folks? You're off the hook. Whew! I guess we can continue to live the lives we're already living. Thank God. You're welcome, I guess, because we need that permission today, right? Only the rich and entitled who have successfully bought and bypassed their way from living a real and authentic life will say they've transcended the trials and difficulties of living. The considerate and compassionate souls of this planet would never mislead anyone out of the beautifully rich, heart-opening struggle and breakdown that is an authentic life well lived. Oh, so compassionate and caring. Life is about healing. It is about healing because there's messes, wounds, suffering, imperfection, and from such a messy cocktail arises the hidden blessing that all things can constantly improve. Because we live in a reality that rests fundamentally upon the principle of evolution. If you don't believe me, simply observe. Astrology and what I say is not for you to believe without coming to these conclusions yourself through the tested and true proof that comes from your observation and correlation of real life experience. This is about nature, natural laws. So all of this life fundamentally rests upon a principle of evolution, the hidden blessing of which means that life can constantly improve. This is an upward spiral. But the way that this upward spiral works is that we cycle. We come around back to the same themes time and time again. What most astrologers out there on YouTube world, etc., are not mentioning about this here is the south nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, which this is a collective cycling back to the collective past of patriarchy. We're talking about collective oppression. We're talking about slavery. We're talking about gender stigmas, racism, the shit that we thought that we left in the medieval ages, that as it turns out, if you're aware, alive, and conscious in this day and age, you recognize that we're crawling out of these periods, that the ugly face of patriarchy is still rearing its head. Hell, it's still here on YouTube. You can, again, think you're signing up for an astrology reading and get assigned a creeper. That's the day and age in which we live, right? So, we go through these cycles, but it's a weaving. Healing happens through a weaving, a stitching through the future, potential, where we're going, the new, the fresh. And then we go back into the old wounds, the past experiences, the old themes, that hellish childhood that we thought we escaped, and then there's a trigger, or there's a reflection, or there's a similar person, event, or circumstance, and that feels like we're going back in time. It feels like we may have, again, the sense of failure. Oh, I must have done something wrong to go back. I thought that I conquered these challenges. I thought that I've grown and learned so much, and we have. We must give ourselves this credit, these pats on the back. I mean, my fighting frustration, believe it or not, is in service of the reality that this is what we must give ourselves credit to do. We have to give ourselves these pats on the back even while we crawl through the tight spaces, because sometimes this is the human journey, this is the best that we can do, and that is actually the symptom that the medicine is working. This is the healing. We experience re-traumatization to bring awareness back to prior traumas, to heal those traumas. So, in certain respects, this is happening all the time on a deeply unconscious level. We have these reoccurring themes, these reoccurring experiences, and it's not a sign of failure or us doing anything wrong. It is life generating for us the necessary triggers and catalysts of our healing journey. But do we have to sit here all pleasant and happy and, oh, thank you, life, for throwing me back into my prior hell realms that I thought I overcame? No. It doesn't have to be a fun, celebrated experience always. Maybe we can celebrate giving ourselves permission to vent, brood, be aggressive and frustrated in healthy, supported types of ways. That, I think, is really necessary in times like these, that we have permission to be a little frustrated, a little tense, a little edgy, because we need that space and that flexibility to be a human being. And I can't tell you, in my effort to teach and share this with others, particularly the New Agers, how much shame and demonizing and, oh, he's dark and he's mean, from these delusional, fake-ass, rich-ass lemming leaders that end up having all sorts of inappropriate problems with their students and whatnot, because they don't know what healing's about at all. Healing is about creating safe space to go into dark places. I would love to see more teachers and healers be a little bit more bitchy and mean out there on the surface, so that way they start behaving more like real people rather than fake-ass meat puppets. Sorry, I vent and channel the energy because I'm a human being that's sensitive to the collective and not just someone that's trying to steal your money by being a fake-ass puppet. So, long story short, we may be on a bit of an underworld journey right now. Not a problem, but an opportunity to go down, to do a little spelunking, to do a little mapping out of our own beneath the ground tunnel system. And this is where we're going to experience the tension, the frustration, the friction, and the triggers. We are mapping out our own underworld. This is the deeper story of our soul. Because when we experience past traumas or woundedness, we usually cope by storing or forgetting until we have those triggers or catalysts. And then again, the necessary ingredient is the safe space. The most redundant and helpful thing I can say is to simply be aware of your own journey, your own triggers, and give yourself the permission to be triggered, to create that safe space, and certainly to have some support from others who can do the underworld journey with you. This is the service that I provide doing astrology readings. Yes, we have a map of the unconscious, and boy, is that a pioneering, ahead of its time, extraordinarily useful tool to have. But also, it creates this support to go into our own underworld. We may feel afraid, we may feel scared, we may feel vulnerable, we may feel exposed, and it's okay. This is something that we share. We have the permission to go there together. But it is something that requires a bit life experience, maturity, having lived on this planet and having lost a bit of that naivety to provide that type of support that's not escaping or jumping into the next quick fix or the next carrot at the end of a stick. So the support, the safe space, sorry I'm screaming it, but these are really the ingredients that we need at this time. I think something about my frustration is the distance in between the support and the world that desperately needs it, and the authorities, what they're providing versus what they should be providing. It really comes through. Mars retrograde wakes us up to what we're passionate about, what really makes us tick. Again, this can come from the friction. What we don't like that we're seeing from the world or other people can wake us up to the work that only we can do. This is something I've been saying throughout this entire year. For example, we live in a world where sensitive, counseling, compassionate, empathic, considerate souls, they've been prejudiced against, been told that they're too sensitive, too whiny, too complainy, too emotional, too intense, too being thrown around by the world that's around them. This is what a sensitive soul experiences. And yet these same souls are the needed leaders, teachers, and authorities because they embody within them the emotional intelligence, the skill sets, the counseling skills, the relationship understanding that the rest of the world is starved of. Such souls eventually have to wake up this year. Oh, the world's not going to tell me what it's missing and needs. I know what the world misses and needs via my own sense of severe lack. This is the year where we're experiencing severe lack, not having all of the answers served to us on a silver platter. This year is where we're experiencing this tremendous friction. This alert system is waking us up. This is what's missing. This is what's needed. This is where I can move, even if I don't know where I'm going totally. I can at least start to move somewhere. I can at least start to explore in new places. Coronavirus shut down all the old distractions, all my old ways of avoiding the deeper, realer, more important stuff. Well, I guess we'll start to unpack this. This is 2020. So this Mars retrograde, taking us from, really September through November, but I would say this whole period takes us through January of this year. It's really an exploration. Who am I really? What do I really want to do? What am I really passionate about? And this is, again, where even frustration and anger can be fuel to the fire. Anger and frustration, as I've also been redundantly saying, can be destructive or constructive depending on how we're using it. It's a raw energy. This Mars retrograde for each and every one of us, we're in some unique way lassoing this wild stallion. And this stallion wants to make change, wants to run ahead, wants to be on the other side of this Mars retrograde already. We all have our projects handed off to us right now, right? Everybody's looking at something right now. And it's not perfect and clean and easy, and we're rolling up our sleeves and we're saying, okay, well, all right. And it's life, and it's what's needed, and it's not always fun, and it's not a punishment, but again, there are hidden blessings. And going through this passageway and going through this underworld journey, this is when we become really empowered. When we're constantly running away from ourselves in our underworld journey, the way the vast majority of people always are, there's this perpetual being pushed and pulled by strings. There's this thing that scares me, and I better get away from that to the thing that's nicer. Whatever that thing is, glad that I have avoided it, right? And then we're constantly running. People live the most scared, frightened, pitiful existences because of this dynamic. So when we're forced to sit down, the way we may get forced right now, and it's not fun, it's not pleasant, and we don't have to be having a good time. We don't have to like this information. We don't have to like how it's being given or received. sorry, I'm having my Saturn return exact right now. It is what it is. It's like inevitability, karma, time, you know. And this is where we collectively see so many things now as well. It's like Saturn stationing direct, end of September, Pluto stationing direct, second week of October. This is like inescapable, right? This is inevitability. This is karma. This is time. And it's also not personal. It's this world, right? It's the ugly face of patriarchy rearing its head. This is a time where dictatorships are rebirthing themselves across the planet. It's a time where we're challenged to see, are we actually moving forward? Or are we just repeating these cycles? Oh my gosh, we're just repeating these cycles. We need to actually put an effort if we want to move forward. So again, Saturn does have this reputation sometimes. Well, it's just like, wow, this isn't exactly what I want, but it is a requirement. Time and our bodies and limitation is this forceful experience. That way we can go through this experience and gain something from the experience. Winter times, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and every winter time there's this anxiety that, oh my gosh, there's going to be another winter time, and it never ends. But winter time is where we develop strength, where we develop appreciation of the other seasons. If it was a flat line, if it was just summertime always, we would lose that dance, that taste, that flavor, that appreciation. So it's an opportunity for us to become masters, to become empowered. This is where we get a transcendental strength in life. It's not us clicking our fingers, our wishful thinking, these thoughts, these beliefs, the next book that we're going to read that's going to take us to enlightenment. Yeah, that is the capitalistic, patriarchal, oh yeah, we're just going to flatline and nothing's going to move. It's a prejudice against the momentum, the fluctuation, the dance of life that is the divine feminine. The full spectrum of emotional experience. We'll have good days, bad days. We'll be happy, we'll be angry, we'll be sad. Is real life, feminine, emotional experience, what humanity is all about. This is beautiful, it's tasty, it's richer, it should be celebrated. All of our seasons should be celebrated. That's what's missing from our society and culture, and we suffer as a result of missing this from our world and culture. Death and mourning and grieving and letting go isn't what we want to experience, but there needs to be rituals, celebrations, honoring this as a natural part of life. Winter passageways are a natural opportunity for us to step it up, for us to prove to ourselves that we're far stronger and far more capable than we've been led to believe. That's what this situation coming up at these times is here. Not for us to simply believe, for us to prove to ourselves. Now, this last week, Jupiter has just stationed direct 17 degrees Capricorn. Check out where this is in your birth chart. What house is 17 degrees Capricorn? That's where there's going to be a tremendous amount of awareness being brought to this part of your life, this area of your experience. This can also bring tremendous awareness generally. Saturn, Pluto stationing direct, clarity. Okay, now we're seeing what we're working with. And here's what we have, and here's what's missing, and here's what's working, and here's what is not. This is the type of clarity that can be coming up. Jupiter's been with Pluto all of this year. This is bringing up the global societal themes as well. Exposure, revelation, the reality beneath the surface. The actual reality of the given circumstance or situation. What's really going on, not topically, beneath the surface. Again, South Node, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, exposing the long outstanding past, systemic oppression, societal cultural conditioning. What you are taught this world is or requires you to be for it, that is in fact a prison that traps us from the natural world and our own true nature. Rather than learning how to survive or needing to keep up with our parents or it's a dog-eat-dog world, sonny boy, so you better perform in this way. No, we're breaking those chains. First, we got to recognize that they're there. First, we do the underworld journey. Virgo is the removal of clutter, impurities, distractions, imperfections. It is as if we are having an apparition, okay? So we need to be, again, easy, forgiving, taking care of ourselves. It's all part of the process. This is how upgrading takes place. It's not like a downloaded, pew, 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 oh, Lionsgate, pew, pew, on to the next dimension, pew, pew, 13 crystal skulls gathered together. Now we're ascended. It's a weaving, it's a dance. That's real life, that's nature. So, we're getting things moved around in a healthier order around these parts. Now this is, I want to talk a little bit more about Saturn direct here. Okay. Saturn direct with this crystallization, Pluto direct with this crystallization, there can be a little bit of a resurgence of the old, conditioned, patriarchal, like, no, we should do this the way our daddy did it. No, we should have the next ancient, dying dinosaur as the president of the United States. No, we should just shut up with our complaints, and we should just buckle up and just, pay our bills and do all that. We need to be wary that we're not, like, backtracking. But Saturn stationing direct can bring an increased clarity of the new strength and the new authority. Okay, so for example, strength is not our capacity to shut up our emotions so that way we appear like we've had it all held together on the surface. That's the traditional standard of strength. The healthy standard of strength is our capacity to be vulnerable. Hey, what you said yesterday, I know it seems small and it seems trivial and, it should seem like not a big deal. And I feel like I should just sweep this under the rug, and I feel a little bit inadequate about even speaking up for myself, but that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. Or that was kind of a little inconsiderate. Or, I kind of said I was going to do this thing, and it's not really who I am. I'm going through this period of processing and adjustment, and I need to be really flexible right now. That's higher authority. That's what I would love to see these teachers and New Age gurus doing a little bit more of, is like, hey, I just tripped over my shoelaces on the way walking up to this stage, and it was really embarrassing, and I don't even really want to talk to you right now. And what that does is, again, it's like, oh my gosh, another human being that's out there, and I relate to that experience. And what that does is bring people together. It creates safe space, and that allows for the healing to be a lot more effective. You will recognize the true healers out there for their vulnerability, their humanity. They're being real, they're exposing their smelly stuff and talking about the issues that they've had. And then, of course, we got our grandiose narcissists just covering up all of their problems and blaming other people. Now, this is not as often mentioned, and it's not obvious astrology, but over the summer we had 2 new moons in a row. We had a lunar eclipse, or a solar eclipse in Cancer, followed by a second new moon. And since that time, we've had our new moons in the late degrees of each sign. So this patterning between the lunar and solar cycles basically means a weaving and stitching between the two. So the last lunar cycle, we had both Leo and Virgo themes. Through this next lunar cycle, we will have both Virgo and Libra themes. Libra season begins Tuesday, September 22nd. The sun is in Libra through October 22nd. Venus enters Virgo October 2nd, remains in Virgo through October 27th. So there's a theme of connecting, collaborating, and networking. Virgo, balance. Like, hey, let's make this situation Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold. Hey, Tim's blowing a gasket. How can we, create a little bit more peace and serenity here? So that's the good news, is Virgo and Libra kind of coming together. This revisionism, this perfectionism. We can work things out to have a happy harmony, a nice balance. This will take work and effort, but this is where we can go. Also the support, like we said, like I'm having a bad day, I need help. Libra is support. We need to be providing helping hands when we've got the energy and we're top, and why gosh, I can handle life. Well, that means we're needed on team helper, support group. And when we need help, we need to be reaching our hand out. This life is too much for any one of us to be doing it on our own, completely by ourselves. So, haha! Hey, you out there? Now, Mercury is moving into Scorpio September 27th. There is a deeply reflective and revealing Mercury retrograde. We'll be talking about this as we come into October. But for now, Virgo, one baby step after the next. That's what Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of evolutionary astrology, said about Virgo. He described the allegory of the millipede. Millipede's got hundreds of feet going at once, right? So if the millipede's thinking about where every foot needs to be, it's going to trip over itself. Millipede just flows, just moves, keeps going, one little baby step after the next. That's Virgo Pisces balance and polarity. Some magic here is the focus. Your space, your body, your world, your practice. The meditative trance that can come from Virgo, it's not the quick fix. It's the meditative space we get in through the really simple, redundant, easy practice. Basket weaving, mantra, walking meditation, washing the dishes, sweeping our floor. These redundant, everyday, somewhat mundane activities, that's transcendental, secret enlightenment. That can really help us to stay grounded, to stay anchored in our life, in our experience. I like to do japa meditation on beads. It's just somatic, redundant, in the body, calming down, collecting myself. Boy, I should have done some japa this morning. So this simple, comforting, redundant type of practice and patterning can help keep us sane, stable, can allow that crisp fall time air to fill the space. Yes, we'll just keep living. We'll keep keep processing the food for winter time. It's a redundant procedure, but this is life. This is humanity. Let the mantra of your daily life and habits grant you safe passage to the other end. One day at a time, one breath at a time, one baby step after the next, just like the millipede. Speaking of Virgo technique, I may know someone who has refined some of the high-quality astrological teachings and techniques available out to you, if you find them. We are teaching the zodiac through my Astro School on my Patreon. We're beginning this Astro School that is going to go into in-depth evolutionary astrology as was taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green. So if you want to learn some astrology, check out my Patreon page. For those interested in astrology, looking for like minds, a support group, we've got a wonderful online chat room. The conversation is continuing. Other than that, I am wishing you absolutely all the best. Hope you're staying a little bit more clear, sane, and grounded than this regurgitation. But regardless, we're in this together. Remember to take care of yourself. It is absolutely the number one priority these days. And I look forward to speaking and sharing with you next time. Much love.